Hello, students. Welcome back. Linear equations, lesson 8. Linear equations in disguise. We'll figure out what that means in a minute. You will rewrite and solve equations that are not obviously linear equations using the properties of equality. So again, we're going to rewrite and solve equations, but you're going to go, I don't think this is linear. All right. Proportions have more than one term in the numerator or denominator can be solved the same way we normally solve a proportion. When multiplying a fraction with more than one term in the numerator or denominator by a number, we should put the expression with more than one term in parentheses so that we are less likely to forget to use the distributive property. So it looks like here we've got a 5, x plus 4, and then we've got 5 times parentheses x plus 4. Or you would say 5 times the sum of x plus 4. And the other one is 3 times 2x minus 5, or 3 times the difference between 2x and 5. So let's see what it means. All right, a proportion like x over 5 is equal to 6 over 12 in a proportion similar to the proportion a over b equals c over d. It becomes AD equals CB. So the property of equality is multiplication. So if I multiply both sides of this equation by D, so if I do a D over here, if I multiply by D and I multiply by D, that's going to cancel out, that's going to cancel out. If I multiply by C, I have to do it on both sides. It stays equal. That cancels out, that cancels out. So I end up with A times D over here and C times B over here, right? So that works in equations as well. So x over 5 equals 6 over 12. If I multiply both sides by 12 and both sides by 5, so I'm just telling you I'm multiplying. These sides are going to cancel out. The 12s on this side are going to cancel out. So I'm going to have 12 times x equals 5. Here it is. 12 times x equals 5 times 6, or 12x equals 30. So now I can solve the equation 12x equals 30 by dividing both sides by 12. 12x equals 30 becomes 30 over 12. 30 over 12 reduces to 5 over 2. Just as a note, remember proportions are straight lines starting at the origin, so they're very similar to linear expressions or equations. So let's step on, let's practice. Solving proportions. So now I have a proportion of x minus 1 over 2 equals x plus 1/3 over 4. Now, you have not played around with this stuff too much, but when I have everything on the numerator being over the 2. That means I have to divide this. If I was going to split this up, this would be x over 2 minus 1 over 2. And this would be x over 4 plus 1/3 over 4, which is kind of funky. But, this is really kind of ugly to work with. I can work with it, but it's really kind of ugly to work with. What I really want to do is simplify. And the best way to simplify is the property of equality. So if I multiply both sides by 4, and then I multiply both sides by 2, the 2's on this side cancel out, the 4's on this side cancel out. So now I have 4 times x minus 1 equals 2 times x plus 1/3. And you're saying, Mr. Murphy, why are you putting parentheses around there? Very important, right? Because we just said before, if I split this up, it was x over 2 minus 1 over 2. And that was x over 4 plus 1/3 over 4, right? So they're separate things. When I multiplied by 4 on both sides, I multiplied 4 times x over 2 and 4 times x 4 times a half. So I've got to make sure I do that on this side, and I use the parentheses to make sure I do that. But now this is a really simple problem. Here, it looked really, really difficult. But here, it looks like the stuff we've been doing. My first step, distribute. So if I distribute, I have 4x minus 4 equals 2x plus 2 over 3. 1/3 times 2 over 1 is 2. And now I don't have to combine anything, so I'm going to add or subtract to move stuff around. So I'm going to subtract my 2x on both sides, and I'm going to add a 4 on both sides. So I've got 4 minus 2x, 4x minus 2x is 2x. 2/3 plus 4 is 4 and 2/3. Now I can divide by 2 on both sides. My x equals 4 and 2/3 divided by 2 sounds really difficult. So I'm going to make it into a mixed number. 4 times 3 is 12, 13, that's 14 thirds times, well, divided by 2 is the same as times 1/2. So now it's pretty easy. So that would be 14 over 6, which they're both even, so I can reduce it to 7 over 3. Okay. All right. Does that make sense to you? Okay. I'm going to go through it again real quick because I've already got it set up here. But I multiply by the denominators. So I end up with 4 times x minus 1 equals, or 4 times the difference between x and 1, equals 2 times the sum of x plus 1/3. I distribute, so 4 times x minus 4 equals 2x plus 2/3. Add or subtract to move my terms on both sides. So I'm adding 4 on both sides and subtracting 2 on both sides. So I end up with 2x equals 4 and 2/3 or 14/3, and then x equals 7/3. All right. Try it one more time. Take a minute, pause me, and go ahead and try this one. See if you can do it. So the first step, I'll give you. So you're going to cross multiply, right? Well, they call it cross multiplying. We don't like to really call it cross multiplying. But the property of equality, I multiply the same thing on both sides. I'm multiplying both sides by 3 and both sides by 7. These 3 cancel out. These 7s cancel out. So some teachers used to say, let's cross multiply. I'm just multiplying this times 3 and this times 7. You're not. You're using the property of equality. It's just that this step where the 7s cancel out and the 3s cancel out, they're skipping. So I should have 3 times 1/5 minus x equals 7 times 2x plus 9. And if I say that correctly, that would be 3 times the difference between 1/5 and x equals 7 times the sum of 2x plus 9. So let's see if that was the right first step. Multiply by the denominators. All right, I did it. So if I distribute those numbers, 3 times 1/5 is 3/5. 3 times negative x is negative 3x. 7 times 2x is 14x. And 7 times 9 is 63. If I add and subtract on both sides, so I'm going to subtract 14x from both sides, and I'm going to subtract 3/5 on both sides. I did that because it's easier to subtract 63 minus 3/5 in my head. So I've got a negative 17x equals 62 and 2/5. And divide by negative 17 on both sides gives me 312 85ths. I did that. I did not do that in my head. I did that with a calculator. 5 times 62 plus 2, and then divide by 17, negative 17. All right. All right. Can we solve this equation? You probably could if my face went in the way. Let me try and get my face out of here. There we go. 6 plus x over 7x plus 2/3 equals 3/8. This is a little different, right? And the last couple, we had the stuff, the whole numbers on the bottom. So that was kind of easy. This one, we've got a really weird thing over here, but a nice 8 over there. So I'm still going to multiply by the denominators, right? So I'm going to multiply by 8 on both sides. This 8 will cancel out. I'm going to multiply by 7x plus 2/3. It's going to cancel out on this side, but now it's going to be 3 times 7x plus 2/3 on this side. So again, with that multiply on both sides, that multiplication power of equality, I've got a nice simple problem here. I just need to distribute. 6 times 8 is 48. X times 8 is 8x. 7x times 3 is 21x. 2/3 times 3 is just 2, because the 3's will cancel out. So I am going to subtract 21x on both sides, and I'm going to subtract 48 on both sides. 8x minus 21x is negative 13x. 2 minus 48 is negative 46. And then divide by 13 on both sides. Divide by negative 13 on both sides, so I get a positive x equals 46 over 13. Okay. All right, this one is really different, isn't it? In the diagram below, triangle ABC is similar to, that wavy line means similar to, triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. Using what we know about similar triangles, we can determine the value of x. So if these are similar, that means you can make a proportion of them. So x minus 2 divided by 9 over 5 is equal to x plus 2 divided by 12. Or the other way, you can say 9.5 divided by x minus 2 is equal to 12 over x plus 2. Either way works. So I did it this way with x minus 2 divided by 9.5 equals x plus 2 divided by 12. We're going to multiply both sides by the denominators. 12 times x minus 2 and 9.5 times x plus 2. 12 times x is 12x. 12 times negative 2 is negative 24. 9.5 times x is 9.5x. 9.5 times 2 is 8. It's 19. I subtract 9.5x from both sides, and I add 24 on both sides. So 12x plus 9.5x minus 9.5x is 2.5x, and 19 plus 24 is 43. Divide both sides by 2.5. 43 divided by 2.5, and that gives me a decimal of 17.2. While I like fractions, I don't like my decimals in my fractions, so might as well change it to a straight decimal. And I did that by dividing in my calculator. I did not do that in my head. All right, try these on your own. I will put the answers at the end of the lesson. All right, good luck.